Hey there, and welcome back to the Mini Weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's get into it, Minny. Wow. Wow, I'm actually kind of taken aback here for a second. I wasn't really sure what to expect from this tonight, and still don't know how I feel. Drinking the podcast. Going with another, Jones Soda Co. tonight. I kind of feel like I'm all over the place here for you guys to start the podcast. I apologize. Strawberry lime soda, and it's not bad. There's a lot going on in it. So, sorry about that. The fusion of strawberry with the tang of lime has always had Jones Soda fans bewildered. It all comes down to our flavor blending process machine doohickey. We start with the strawberry, then add a lime, exactly in that order. Let's just say we found out the hard way when we had yada yada yada, some silly stuff. This was kind of the opposite, as I can't remember what we had last week. But whatever it was kind of thick at the beginning and kind of had like thinned out and kind of like thin aftertaste. This is kind of the opposite. It goes in pretty thin, pretty smooth, and your aftertaste, it almost tastes more like a shake or something, just like a little thicker, kind of like more syrupy aftertaste wise, which is a little different. And you don't get the lime until kind of like the aftertaste after rolling down your tongue. Like I said, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I'm not over the moon about it, but I don't hate it. Kind of somewhere in that middle ground. I think as we talk about this a little bit more, it might come to me where I kind of want to put it and position it with the good old Mini Weekend rating system. So for those that are new here, Jones Soda Co., they're based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, and I know they also have a nice little spot in Seattle, Washington too. So not local, but a while back was recommended to us by somebody, and this is like the 6th or 7th flavor we've had. I will be honest with you guys. There are easily 3, maybe 4 flavors I've tried of theirs that I would rather get before I get this one, if not more. But yeah, Jones Soda Co., go check them out. It's jonessoda.com. Like I said, from when we started with doing Jones Soda, their website is completely revamped. They have more drinks for you to buy from them. So not only do they have old-fashioned bottles like this, but they also have cans now it's their new Pop Jones prebiotic sodas and canned sodas and all that kind of fun stuff. It's really cool. If you go onto their website, you can shop all the different kinds of stuff. You can custom make your own Jones. Not really your own flavor, but you can pick your label theme. You can add a photo, decide the label you want and the text, and all that kind of fun stuff. And they have apparel, collectibles. Like I said, they got Pop Jones, which is like a different line of drinks that they have. But yeah, go check them out. jonessoda.com. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm gonna go 4.6. I think it's just a little bit under the average for me. I think the more I taste it, the strawberry and the lime just aren't mixing well for me, and there's just too much going on. If you think I'm completely wrong, let me know, and let me know what you think about it. And let us know what Jones Soda flavor we should have next. So with that 4.6, book it. We're moving on. Tommie Town, we actually have a little bit of news this week for you guys. Not a ton, but some substance. So for starters, back on the May 29th, the men's hockey team announced their complete 2025-2026 schedule. They will play a total of 34 games that are going to include 26 CCHA games. 13 home and 13 away, as this will be their final year in the CCHA. Next year, they will be in the NCHC, which includes Miami of Ohio, Denver, Arizona State, Western Michigan, North Dakota, Omaha, some of those teams. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I just remembered as I was talking that this is their final season in the CC. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with me right now. But yeah, that's what they got. Like, for starters, they will take off with a familiar foe, as they will go up to the Herb Brooks National Center in St. Cloud for their first game of the season on October 4th. The first weekend in October. The second weekend in October will be that home-and-home series with North Dakota. The second one being at the XL Energy Center. After that, they will take a trip out to Colorado for a 2-game series with Air Force. And then that third weekend in October, or the last full weekend in October, on the 24th and 25th, they will be taking on the Providence Friars for the first games in the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. After that, on October 31st and 1st, they will have a home-and-home series with the Minnesota State Mavericks before wrapping up their non-conference schedule with a November 11th game in St. Paul against St. Cloud State. And then after that, it's going to be all CCHA. They will be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on November 15th for a game against Augustana. November 21st and 22nd, they will host Bowling Green. Michigan Tech, the final week in November, will be at Michigan Tech. And then they will be back to take on Lake Superior the first weekend in December. And then they will go back out to Michigan for a series with Northern Michigan in December, wrapping up the first half of the season. And then starting off 2026, they will be in St. Paul to take on Ferris State, in Mankato for a one game against the Mavericks on the 10th, in St. Paul against Bemidji State on January 18th and 18th and 17th, Lake Superior State the final weekend, or the third weekend, in January. Michigan State at home January 30th and 31st. Bowling Green in Ohio on February 6th and 7th. And then they will host Augustana February 20th and 21st before wrapping up the season in Bemidji, Minnesota, the final weekend in February against the Beavers. So that is what they have on the docket. Can't wait to get out to, I'm going to for sure be at one, maybe a couple hockey games in the new arena. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. And then the last bit of news we have from you comes from the men's basketball teams. Just earlier, today, the Summit League and the Big Sky Conference announced its 2025-2026 lineup for their third annual Big Sky Summit League Challenge, which features St. Thomas on the road December 3rd at Montana State, and then they will host Weber State in the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena on December 6th. This will be the third meeting all time between St. Thomas and Montana State, previously playing in the 21-22 season and the 22-23 season. And it will be the first meeting ever against Weber State. The Tommies are 8-3 against Big Sky programs since joining Division I, including 8 straight wins since the 22-23 season, which is pretty impressive. St. Thomas is also the only program between both conferences to go a perfect 4-0 in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge since its first year in 23-24, which is pretty impressive. They beat Idaho and Sacramento State during the inaugural challenge in 23-24 before sweeping Big Sky champions Northern Colorado on the road and Montana, who was actually an NCAA tournament qualifier last season. So lots on the line for the Tommies this season, especially since they are postseason eligible. So if they can really get a grasp on the Summit League this year, we could see them in March Madness, which is just insane to think about, and obviously can't wait. So that wraps up what we have for Tommie Town. So now we move on to everybody's favorite segment, Mini Weekend Bets. So last week we did pretty well. We went 3-1, moving to 13-8, all-time record, now hitting at 61.9%. Almost had the clean sweep, but the Pacers just didn't want to keep the game close or win their game 5, but they won game 6 to advance through the NBA Finals. As always, quick recap. The Oilers money line over the Stars hit. They won their game 6-3. The Oilers Stars hit over their 5.5 goals I predicted. They had 9 total, 6 plus 3. And then the Knicks Pacers hit the under 222 points or something like that. There was only a total of 205 points. However, the Knicks did win by more than 5 points. 111-94 to be exact, which gave us our one loss. But that's how last week went. Once again, another winning week, but just like everything, we bounced back, and this week we're looking to be perfect. So this week, my 4 picks I have for you guys. The first one is a preview of tonight's game, since I've been posting these officially Thursday morning. Game 1 between the Pacers and the Thunder. Right now, the over-under is set at 230.5 points, and I really, really like the over in this one. Both of these teams have been two of the more exciting offensive teams to watch in these playoffs. And I think that result is going to, or I think that is going to result in a very, very high scoring game 1. I don't know that that's necessarily going to go all series, because both teams have shown that they can play very good defense. But during this postseason, for a point of reference, they have ranked second and third in pace and offensive rating. And as a result of that, both of them are averaging over 117 points per game and should continue to have success offensively, especially with both sides playing more up-tempo basketball, which should make for a good series. And that was evident in the regular season too, with the teams combining for 234 and 243 points, respectively, in their 2 games against each other. And during this postseason, one of the things I also wrote a note of was the Thunder, both during the postseason, the Thunder have also led all teams in fast break points per game, while the Pacers have been only third. So like I said, expect on those misses, both teams to get out in transition and try to catch the other teams lacking on defense. Look for SGA to lead the hosts' offense in this one, and I expect Tyrese Halliburton to keep being the playmaker that he is. He's obviously shown us that he is electric with the ball, whether it's finding the open guy if he's getting double teamed, or driving to the lane, or shooting a big 3. So like I said, first one, I like the Pacers and Thunders to go over 230.5 points. Pick 2, I'm actually going with the Pacers, who are plus 9.5 in game 1. I usually always tell you guys this, if I think they're not going to win. This pick isn't indicative of I strongly and firmly believe the Pacers are going to win. I think the Pacers are going to win, or I think should the Thunder find a way to win, which, if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm kind of leaning towards a Thunder win. I just think these 9.5 points are too much. Both of these teams in crunch time and late game scenarios, despite having explosive offenses, have shown glimpses of locking down defensively and getting a stop, or making their opponents give up bad turnovers when it matters. So I like the 9.5 points. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I think it's going to come down to 1 or 2 possessions. But on top of that, the Pacers are a strong road performance team. They have a 6-2 record on the road in the playoffs, and they've had underdog success in this playoffs, and they've thrived as underdogs throughout. They already stole game 1 on the road from the Cleveland Cavaliers and New York Knicks. I think it would be really awesome to see them do it, but I very much see this coming down to essentially being a 3-game series. I think after game 4, it's going to be tied 2-2. But yeah, a couple other things that I wrote down too. Low turnover rate. The Pacers have maintained a low turnover rate throughout the playoffs and can limit the Thunder's defense, especially with Tyrese's playmaking abilities, like I mentioned. In addition, they lead the postseason in 3-point percentage, and they're also projected to have a successful scoring night by taking care of the ball like they usually do and scoring efficiently. So give me the Pacers plus 9.5. And then my third pick, tomorrow our Minnesota Twins are going up against the Sacramento Athletics. And I like just the spread. Right now is minus 190, 196, and it's pretty crazy. Starting pictures will be Bailey Ober for us, and then for the Athletics, JP Spears. This stat came up and I couldn't believe it, especially somebody who hasn't, if I'm being completely honest, paid too much attention to the Twins so far this year. But the Twins have recorded 97 doubles as a team and have knocked 59 home runs out of the park too. We have a slugging percentage currently of 385 and have been called out on also have been called out on strikes 495 times. As a unit right now, we're notching 4.2 runs per game, which is 15th in baseball, which isn't great, but we have 3.32 ERA for the year, which is 6th in the MLB. And our pitchers have struck out 534 batters so far and only have relinquished 56 home runs and 200 home runs and 210 runs, which is only 4th in the league, which is unbelievable. On the other side of the things, Sacramento has only hit 75 home runs this season and 251 runs batted in, and they just don't have, a great save percentage should this game be close. I don't anticipate it being close, but they only have a save percentage of 51.9%. While also dispatching 212 bullpen pitchers to the hill this year. It hasn't gone well for them, and they've actually recorded only 29 holds and 13 blown saves. So I don't want to get too analytical and throw too many numbers at you guys, but the Twins, surprisingly, have actually been playing really good baseball as of recently, so I really anticipate them winning this game. And once again, I'm taking the money line, which is minus 196. And then lastly, my last pick I have for you guys it's a money line bet, and it's technically a future bet if you think about it. But I'm giving you a little bit of foreshadowing, and we'll get more into it in a little bit. My fourth and final pick for this week for you guys, I am taking the Panthers at plus 105 to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. You heard that right. For those that follow me on TikTok, you probably saw the TikTok reacting to game one like I did last night. And great game. I really anticipate this being a series very much like the NBA Finals. Like I said, it's going to come down to the last 3 games. This series very well should be tied 2-2 after 4 games. But I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm not really worried too much about home ice advantage in this series, as Florida has just been lights out on the road in the playoffs. And the Panthers have been minus 160, minus 180, and minus 125 series favorites in each series where they were the road team. I just think this team has a much deeper lineup than the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers, I've been saying for most of the playoffs, are very top heavy. I think Edmonton's depth will be exposed as the series goes on, and they're just not rolling. They can't just do their top 6 players. Florida is still tough to match up against on the road. If you want my opinion, I think they have the best third line in this entire playoff series. And I just, like I said, I really, really think the Panthers are going to win it. I don't know when they'll win it. I think they'll probably win it in 6 or 7 games if I had to give you guys a guess, but don't quote me on that. Like I said, ultimately, I just think the depth of the Florida Panthers will eventually be too much for the Edmonton Oilers' top 6 forwards. And it really sucks. I would love to be wrong and see Connor McDavid get his first Stanley Cup final. When you're a superstar like that, to be validated with a Stanley Cup is just huge. But like I said, I really think the Panthers are going to repeat, and it should be a fun Stanley Cup finals that we will dissect and get a little bit deeper into in just a moment. So yes, once again, wrapping up the mini weekend bets, we have the Pacers Thunders to go over 230.5 points in game 1. Pacers plus 9.5 in game 1. The Twins money line over the Athletics tomorrow night at minus 196. And then the Panthers money line 105 to win the cup this year. And then lastly, I did not start with it, but I want to remind you guys, I am not a financial advisor. All of the picks and bets I give you guys are based off of my opinions, based off of my research and my homework I've done. So do with these picks what you will. I'm not liable for losses, just like I will not come after you guys for your wins. So bet safe and call 1-800-GAMBLING if you have issues or if you are addicted to it. So like I said, bet responsibly, but have fun. next order of business, per usual, want to give a shout out to our friends over at UNRL or Unreal. Once again, a lot of people might think I'm sponsored by them or something. I would love to be sponsored by them. I'm not officially sponsored by them, but their hats and their clothing is just so comfortable, especially at night when doing these podcasts. Tonight I'm sporting the UNRL. It's the Legacy Snapback. It's their khaki flavor. It's unbelievable. Really like it. Very breathable. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you guys. You're just gonna have to buy one and just take my word for it. Very comfortable, easy, and very breathable. And then for the apparel, I got my Ultra hooded long sleeve. I don't know that I've ever put the hood up, but yes, there is a hoodie. But it's no pocket. It's technically listed as Grove, but it's their green color, and I also have the Cavern blue too. So, like I said, go check our friends out at UNRL.com. You will not be disappointed. They are essentially the leaders in athleisure, especially Minnesota based. And one thing I was looking at last week, even though I am not officially sponsored by them, I do have a link for you guys, and I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video. And if you're interested, use my link and you will get $15 off of your next order. And I will get $15 off my next order too as well. So if you're interested, go find that in the description. And if you're not and you just want to peruse, UNRL.com, excuse me. Like I said, athleisure leaders, they have amazing things. You will not be disappointed. Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Go check them out and tell them the mini weekend sent you. And then yeah, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I was getting ready for the podcast right after last week, and I was scrolling on Facebook or Instagram. I can't remember which one it was, but I came across our Minnesota Frost, the PWHL, the women's professional hockey team, and they just went back to back PWHL champions. Huge freaking deal. Congratulations to them. Totally forgot that they were going on. And by the way, Minnesota Frost, super sweet. Go check out the PWHL website or just Google Minnesota Frost. Their jerseys are pretty sweet, if I say so myself. But yeah, huge congratulations to them. They took care of the Toronto Scepters in 4 games. After losing game 1, they rallied off 3 straight games to go back to the PWHL finals, where they took on and dispatched the Ottawa Charge in same fashion. Lost game 1 2-1, and then won games 2, 3, and 4 2-1. I can't remember. I know the 4th game was an overtime game. No, holy crap. Game 2 was a 4. No, I'm looking at the wrong series. My apologies. So the final, oh my gosh, that's right. The finals, the finals, every single game went into overtime. Game 1, Ottawa Charge won in overtime 2-1. Game 2, the Frost won 2-1 in overtime. And then game 3, we won in the XL Energy Center 2-1 in 3 overtimes. I remember that was all over Facebook and everywhere. That was a huge deal. And then in game 4, we won in overtime 2-1. So super, 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 super exciting. Huge shout out to them. Lee Stecklin. Ooh, I believe she's a gopher. She was a gopher, that's right. Lee Stecklin, she led the league in scoring at the conclusion of the playoffs with 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists. Sophie Jacks and Taylor Heisey both had 7 points. Heisey was actually a gopher 2. And then Claire Thompson, 6 points. And then a bunch of girls with 5 points. Unbelievable that they were able to go back to back. Very, 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 very hard to do. And we got it done. Unfortunately for our men's professional sports, we still have to wait a little bit longer to get one. But hey, at least our women's teams are getting the job done and putting respect on the Minnesota names. Once again, huge congratulations to you guys. Huge shout out. Can't believe you guys went back to back. Now it's time for a three-peat. But anyways, yes. Wanted to give them a quick shout out, and then we actually have a couple of 2 questions and 1 comment that we were going to shout out. today. And the first question, actually, there's no news really on the Wild, and we got a question off of it. So let me find it here. Keith Duncan wants to know, what do you make of the Wild extending Marcus Johansson? And Keith, let me tell you, so this happened a couple days ago on June 2nd, Monday. And when I saw it come on my phone that we re-signed Marcus Johansson to a 1-year deal, I was kind of pissed. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But then once I read into it, I'm not all that upset with it, because part of the reason I was upset was I was like, why is Bill Guerin spending a couple $1 million, $2 to $5 million on a 15-year vet Marcus Johansson? And he didn't. He extended him and signed him to a 1-year, $800,000 contract. So knowing that, for that money, I don't care that we re-signed him. I think my only hesitation, Keith, and my biggest thing with this is it's good to have a veteran forward on the team. I think Guerin is very well aware of this, but he's not going to get. I think it was 2016 or 2017 when he had a unbelievable year. Yeah, 16-17, he had 58 points. That was a career year for him. You're not going to get that from him. I mean, last year for us, he had 11 goals, 34 points, 11 goals, 30 points in 23-24. And then in 20 games with us in 22-23, after he traded for him, 6 goals and 18 points. Just like anything, I think as long as he's a good, experienced guy to throw on your fourth liner to have as like a 13th forward, my only hesitation is guys like Ogren or Morant, or young guys you're trying to develop, or young guys that have somewhat proven themselves, should not be beaten out by Marcus Johansson. He just shouldn't be. I'm guessing with the contract that he signed him to, Keith, it's more of a safety net and more of he will probably be one of the 3 healthy scratches on any given night and only playing if guys are injured and things like that. So overall, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And I'm interested to see what other moves and what other guys Guerin will be able to get in here. Stanley Cup Finals. I think this is going to be a very, very fun series between the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. They obviously know each other very well. Rematch of last year's finals. This is I kind of forgot about this, but this is the first rematch since 2008 and 2009, when the Penguins and Red Wings met in 2008 and 2009. In 2008, the Red Wings won. In 2009, the Pittsburgh Penguins won. So if that is any indication of how this series is going to go, Edmonton will finally get over the hump with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and win the whole thing. But yeah, I think if you look at the route both of these teams took, it wasn't easy for either team. The Panthers had to go through the Lightning in the first round, the Maple Leafs in the second round. They were down 2-0 against the Maple Leafs and trailing 2-0 in the third period of Game 3 before just coming back with a monster comeback. And then obviously took care of a very good Hurricanes team. And on the other side of things, the Oilers had to take down an LA Kings team that they've had their number for the last couple of years. The Golden Knights, who are always a Stanley Cup threat. And then the Dallas Stars, who coming into the playoffs, a lot of people had them going to the Stanley Cup Finals. So both teams are battle tested coming into this series. And there's star power on both these teams. Obviously, the Oilers are led by the likes of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, while the Panthers have the likes of Sam Bennett, Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk. And it's the one difference that I noticed kind of coming into this series is the goaltending. So the Panthers have pretty much only played Sergei Bobrovsky regardless of how games have gone, whereas the Oilers have relied on both Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard in situations, so it'll be interesting to see what the Oilers do on that front with their goaltending, and that could potentially swing something, because you never want to make a change that big, but should Florida bounce back and have a 6-1 game, who knows, anything can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But yeah, like I said, I took the Panthers in my pick for you guys, and I'm sticking with it to win the series. I think it'll be 6 or 7 games, but I think nonetheless we are in for a treat. I don't think either of these teams are head and shoulders better than each other. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is the Panthers are just a little bit deeper. But every single one of these games should be a 1, maybe 2 goal game, which is pretty cool. And then, like I said, that got underway tonight with the Edmonton Oilers winning 4-3 in overtime. And then in the NBA Finals will kick off tonight, Thursday. Excuse me, the 5th, Oklahoma City Thunder will take on the Indiana Pacers. Both teams are looking for their first championship in their current cities. Obviously, or I should say obviously, for those that are big basketball fans, the Oklahoma City Thunder did win one while they were Seattle, but they're obviously not Seattle now. But before we get into this, we have our second question of the podcast. So once again, just like we did with Keith's question, we will put it down here for you. So Kate Doyle wants to know, how do we get players to stop doing the challenge the call signal after every play? For those that maybe can't read it, she goes on to say it's a fast bang bang sport, but it's getting so hard to watch with players doing that every time down the floor is both ways. Thank you very much for your question. But to answer your question, I heard one analyst talking about this, and I think he hit it right on the head and couldn't have said it better. But first things first, Kate, I am in agreement with you. I think the NBA does need to do something to get that out of the game. It's obnoxious. There are guys like LeBron and some of those guys, even Anthony Edwards. Like, I get some people are probably watching this saying, oh, it's only annoying when other teams are doing it, but, the Wolves do it so much too. The Wolves do it all the time. Anthony Edwards does it all the time. Like, I'm not being biased here. This is me as a basketball fan saying they need to stop doing this every freaking time. But I can't remember. There are a couple analysts that I'm not crazy about, but one of them, it was either Colin Coward. No, it wasn't Colin. It was Nick. It was either Nick Wright or Stephen A. Smith. And he said the best way to do it, and I agree wholeheartedly with him, is treat the challenge call like timeouts. So for those that don't know what he's talking about, in the NBA, anybody can call a timeout. If you're on the court, and even if you don't want a timeout, if you like quietly go timeout, the official is going to blow the whistle and say, all right, timeout, let's go. Anybody can call a timeout. Now, the key to this is the head coach, anybody on the team, anybody on the bench, anybody on the floor, anybody can call a timeout. But if you call a timeout and you don't have any timeouts left, it is a technical foul. So the reason he brought this up is because everybody's doing this all the time. And again, it's one thing if something happens and you want to go over to a ref, hey, we should look at this, or you want to go over to your coach, hey, we should look at this. But the second you just like that, hey, timeout, or this second a guy goes like this, all right, we're going to challenge. And I believe the challenge system is similar to the NFL, where I think you get 1 or 2 challenges. If it's 1 and you win it, you get a second. Or if there's 2, if you win both of them and you still have a timeout, you can have a second or a third. And I think it's a perfect way to do that, because then you get guys stop doing this, because you can challenge something early on in the game, but you're not going to have guys doing this all the time. And again, if you treat it like a timeout, you do this and you're out of your challenges, that's a technical. The other team gets a free throw, and then if you lose down the stretch because you did that, that's on you. Pay attention. Be better. It needs to get out of the game. I think it is a great idea that the NBA instituted this. You're able to challenge, but I think it needs to come from the bench, because it is getting agonizing, to Kate's point, agonizing, seeing guys going, oh no, oh no, oh no. It's a bang-bang sport, like Kate mentioned too. There's room for human error. These refs are going to get it wrong some of the time, but at the bottom line, it needs to freaking stop. I've had enough. Kate's had enough. I think I speak for a lot of fans when I say enough is enough. Stop. Like, I don't want to see guys going like this every single second of every game. So with that, thank you for your question, Kate. We will leave it at that. One of the things I thought would be fun to bring up about this series is this series built both teams via a Paul George blockbuster trade. So for those that don't know what I'm talking about, back in July of 2027, the Oklahoma City Thunder from the Indiana Pacers, and they gave them Sabonis and Oladipo in that trade. 2 years later, George then went to the Clippers for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, and 2 swaps. So if you're Paul George watching this series, yikes, buddy. But I'm sure they're both thanking you. And I totally kind of forgot about that until I saw that, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, it's pretty interesting that that's how that happened. But once again, you have the number 2 offense versus the number 1 defense. The Pacers rank second among all teams in the playoffs in offensive rating, trailing only the Cavs, who faced it on the Heat before losing to Indiana. And then on the other side of things, you have the Oklahoma City defenses allowing 3.4 fewer points than any other team per 100 possessions in this. And it's the first time since 2022 when the number 1 Golden State offense faced the number 2 Boston defense. So we should be in for a very tightly contested series and a long series. I know a lot of people probably are thinking Indiana's just going to go out for another 3-point barrage. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Indy is going to have to find ways to be efficient at taking smart 3-point shots and having to drive the lane. But more than anything, I hope the NBA, I hope Adam Silver, I hope he reaches out to these officials and say, put away your fucking whistles. As much as the loss from the Thunder for my Wolves still stings and still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, as long as this is a evenly called series and the officials aren't just going to let SGA foul bait the entire time, I'll probably watch a couple of games. And like I said, it should be a very, very fun series. For another reason too, I mean, you have, on one hand, you have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who everybody said they're for sure coming out of the West, and the Indiana Pacers, who, if I'm being completely honest, when the series started, I think people would say, in any specific order, Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, and Bucks would probably advance to the finals before the Indiana Pacers, but they thrived on being the underdog. They beat the Bucks in 5, they beat the Cavs in 5, then they beat the Knicks in 6. This team is on a magical run. I know a lot of people might be looking at them very similar to, a Cinderella March Madness run and thinking, they're, it's not their time. They're, luck's going to run out, this and that and the other thing. But they're playing good basketball. And if you're Rick Carlisle, your message to these guys coming into the championship has got to be, why not us? Like, they beat for sure 2, maybe 3 teams, depending on when you talk about that series against Milwaukee. 3 teams that you're like, nobody thought we were going to win these series. So, I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. 1 seed versus 4 seed. And again, it's not a series until an away team loses. I just hope this thing goes at least 6 games. And it'll be fun. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, if I had to pick right now, I would say I'm rooting for Indiana. So that's what I'm hoping for. But it'll be a good series regardless. And then wrapping up, we actually have a little bit of news for our Vikings. So 6 days ago, on May 30th, the Vikings announced a new contract for general manager Kwesi Adefo-Mensah, and I think it's the right move. I know a lot of people questioned him for a couple of his drafts, but I think ultimately drafts are only half of it. You have to get the right guys in the building, whether it's via the draft, whether it's via trades or free agent signings. And this summer and last summer so far, he has knocked it out of the park. I think this is a huge move for us going forward. And I believe with this extension, we now have Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell both under contract for after this season, for at least 4, maybe 5 more seasons after it. So I personally love it. And we did have some OTA stuff we wanted to talk about. But before we did, I wanted to give a shout out to somebody who, I don't know if it's a he or she, but didn't have a question, but made a very, very good point on my TikTok about the NFL players being able to be Olympians. And A_A Martin said the NFL hopes to obviously get exposure from this, but honestly, the career flag football guys, are probably a better fit if you want the U.S. to ball out in the Olympics. And A_A Martin, thank you so much for the comment. Wanted to touch on this really quick too, because I think I kind of forgot about this too, but I think people forget that it's not widely known, but there is a professional flag football league, and I think we're a couple years away from it, but I think come the time, I think there's going to be a collection of some kind of competition to figure out who's going to go, because as much as the likes of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, who even knows by then if these guys will want to or be able to, but there will probably be some kind of competition just like there is in every other sport in terms of who's going to go, because obviously even though the Professional Flag Football League isn't as big as the NFL, these guys, like, flag football is completely different, or I shouldn't say completely different. It's very different than football, because in the NFL, you're trying to tackle guys, you're not just trying to get, guys off. So, these guys do some things better than NFL guys, whereas NFL guys do some things better than these guys too. So it'll be interesting. And to their point, I think I would say probably maybe in the 2027 offseason. So not this current one, not the upcoming one, but the next one. There will probably be some, okay, this is what we're going to do to kind of decide who's going to be on Team USA, because that's the other thing I think about too. These rosters are like probably maybe 10 people. There's five starting guys, and you're probably going to bring a backup. So there's only 10 guys that are going to be able to go, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of guys that want to go and some guys that just don't want to go. So needless to say, it'll be very interesting on that front. As far as OTAs are concerned, so I obviously don't want to get super high and super fixated on this, but all signs are looking like JJ McCarthy is going to, at the very least, be solid. He is zipping passes to JJ, he's zipping passes to Hawkinson, to Jordan Addison. He's dropping passes into small windows. Obviously, it's not full contact. The guys aren't actually rushing him, so it's going to take a while to see what he's actually going to do. But if what we get in the regular season is anything like this guy that is looking like an OTAs, I think it's going to be a great year for us. And another thing before I let you guys go for this week, the last thing I wanted to mention was something I was talking to a coworker about, and bringing it up here. It's, again, the Vikings have an opportunity here, again, not to get too high, but we have just as good of an opportunity as anybody else, especially in the NFC, because in terms of AFC versus NFC, coming into the season, the NFC is more wide open than the AFC, and I'll tell you what I mean. In the AFC, these are like your top quarterbacks. You got Josh Allen, you got Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. You even have Bo Nix, who did really well last year. You got CJ Stroud, who has shown moments of brilliance, but also moments of being ass. And then Tua, if he can stay healthy, he's shown he can be solid. So that's 7, 8 quarterbacks that are capable of bringing their teams to the playoffs. And then if you look at the NFC, I would say in the top 5, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, even though he's young, Jared Goff, as much as it pains me to admit. But then after that, it's pretty wide open. I'm sure Packer fans would say you could put Jordan Love there. And if I'm being completely honest, with the unknown of JJ McCarthy, maybe you do put Jordan Love, or maybe you do put him Dak Prescott. It's not like they're just household great quarterbacks. I know Matthew Stafford is on the Rams. Everybody's projecting the Rams to have this amazing year. Matthew Stafford is another year older. Cooper Kupp is gone. Puka Nacua, I get, is a real deal. But I think Puka Nacua is going to get a lot more attention. And Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Colby Parkinson, like, are they going to be able to make those plays? And I just, as great as a quarterback as Matthew Stafford is, he's older now. And so I think in terms of our opportunity, I'm not saying we're going to win a Super Bowl, but I think if you look at opportunities given, the opportunity there is really, really good in terms of the NFC just being more open. Because again, even if we don't win the division, if we have a good enough record to kind of hang with some of the top teams, we're probably going to be a top wildcard team. And should we have to take on a Tampa Bay or Seattle or Rams or Atlanta Falcons team with a 500 record, yet in the third or fourth spot, I would give us a good opportunity if we play well to beat either of those teams in the playoffs. So that is what I got for you guys tonight. Like I said, UNRL link, I will put that in the description of the podcast. You can use it to get $15 off your next order, and I will get $15 off my next order as well. Go follow us on all of your social media. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And most importantly, make sure you go subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and where if you listen to it audioly with your ear holes, and get notified of the new episode as soon as it comes out. Until next time, Minny.